Today we will be starting the credit management. Line is breaking. Is it okay now? Nikita, is it okay? Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you, sir. Excuse me.
Yes.
I can hear you, sir. You can continue.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So we will be starting the credit management today, and we will have roughly 15 handouts, which is around 20 classes, right? So when we go through these, sometimes you may feel this is easy, but it is not. You have to give your full attention to what I say and what I present, because this is little bit practical subject. So the questions are coming from practical aspect. So what we do, the lectures will cover the theoretical aspect and part of the practical. So you should be able to apply the theory and answer the questions. Okay. So today I will just do an overview of the subject. So credit management is a vast area where we will be discussing from origination of a customer to evaluating a customer and recovery. The entire credit chain we will be discussing under this subject, right? If you have any question, you can stop me and ask me any. Some people can't hear me. Just hold on. මේ සමහර අය කියනවා ඇහෙන්නේ බ්‍රේක් වෙනවා කියලා. ඔතනින් බලනවා. හරි. Okay. Right? So let's start. This is an overview we will be doing today. So we will introduce the credit, then bank lending, lending principles, and type of lending I will try to cover today. Right? Can you look at this and say what kind of function this? We as a bankers, actually what are we? We are basically money lenders, right? Our main job is to lend money. So there is no difference between the village money lender and us. There is very slight, because our job as a banker is to sell money. But the difference is, not like them, we will have to evaluate like a doctor. We will have to evaluate a business project. Then only we can lend. Because like doctor giving medicine, if they give lower dosage or higher dosage, patient will die. Similarly, if a banker gives less money than what required or more money, again the project will die. Oh, institute is confirming we are okay from this side. If anyone can't hear, check your signal strength. Right? So similar to doctor giving medicine, we will have to look at the project and give the proper amount of money. Otherwise, the projects will die. Therefore, I call us as financial doctors, where we have to evaluate properly and prescribe or lend the proper amount of money on a proper way, right? Similar to a doctor. So we are financial doctors, not just money lenders, right? When it comes to credit, we have finance and commercial trade. Under finance, credit is granting a loan and creation of a debt. Loan and advances both are called credit. So giving money out and creating a debt is called credit. Similarly, on the commercial trade business, approval for delayed payment for purchased goods is credit. Like you sell something, but you won't get your money today. You will get your money after 5 days, 7 days, 15 days. So that means we are giving credit to the customer. Similarly, financially, we give a loan and we allow them to pay gradually over a period of time. So we are creating a debt, creation of a debt, right? Granting of a loan and the creation of debt is called credit under finance. Right? So basically, credit is approval for delayed payment. Giving a loan and allowing them to pay over a period of time is credit. Customer. Customer is king. Everyone agree? That is the customer service perspective. Yes, but when it comes to credit, we have to be very, very careful. When you look at a customer for deposit angle and credit angle, you have to treat them very differently. Because on customer, on a deposit, we are giving a service, right? But when it comes to a loan, yes, we are giving a service, but we give out money and we have to collect that back. On a deposit, we don't have to collect, customer has to collect from the bank, right? The way we treat a deposit customer and the way we treat a credit customer has to be different, right? Because you are lending others money. It does not belong to you, right? On the lending side, a customer is someone who wants to increase their wealth. As long as you give what they want, they will be very good to you. The time you take, the time they take money out, they will be totally different, right? So you have to be very careful, not like how we deal with deposit customers. We have to be very mindful, suspicious, but we should not show that to the customer, right? So when you are granting credit, first and foremost, you should not violate the principle of credit, which I'm going to teach you over the period of this lecture series, right? You should not violate basics. You should not carry it away, right? Big business people, this and that, forget everything, stick to your basics. right? Then more importantly, there's a line between the customer and yourself. Arm's length lending. Because if you get so very close to a customer, there will be a point where you can't say no. Then the customer will try to get advantage. So you have to be very, very careful when dealing with a credit customer. Every time, always, you need to have an arm's length distance between. When we were going to school, so be careful. You have to be very careful about credit customers. When we grant credit, you should not violate the basics. You have to use your common sense. All the credit guidelines should be applied, covenants, conditions, and everything. Otherwise, customer will do the same thing like this picture, right? Customers are people who want to increase their wealth. How good to them you is different. Credit management is managing provision of credit and its recovery. That means credit management starts from granting credit till the collection of all the processes within this period is credit management. Identify the customer, evaluating the customer, granting the credit, follow-ups and recoveries. From the time you meet the customer to the time you collect all the money you give, that entire process is called credit management. This process should be efficient and effective. It has to be a win-win position. Like the bank can't win if the customer fails. Customer can't win if the bank fails. It has to be win-win to both parties. So in this context, the credit should be managed appropriately. You have to be very careful in selection, very careful in evaluation, very careful in disbursement, very careful in recoveries, right? Managing provision of credit and its recoveries is called credit management. Have you seen this picture or you ever heard about them? Nakote Chettiars. They were in our country from 1875 to somewhere 1925 to 30. We treat them as the forefathers of banking in Sri Lanka. Right? They came from South India, Chettinda, that village, and they are basically money lenders. But they were treated as genuine money lenders, genuine people. When the British was ruling our country, they didn't trust the local indigenous people. That means us, local people. So these people, Nakote Chettiars, they were the one who was lending to the Sri Lankan people. Those days, Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, right? So Ceylonese were getting money from these people. When after the coffee plantation collapsed in late 18th century, Madras Bank, the British Indian bank, started lending to the country for tea and rubber. But they initially lended to these people for them to relent to the local people. So their pricing was very high. Subsequently, Britishers started lending to Sri Lankan people, but these people had to give a guarantee. Basically, Britishers did not trust the Sri Lankan people for lend. So they were the intermediate people, right? Some after 1931, when the Bank of Ceylon, not the current bank, the Bank of Ceylon started and the state started giving money directly to our people, their job was diluted. However, we treat them as the forefathers of banking in Sri Lanka. Na Kotiri Chettiars. Right. Is the speed I'm going okay with you? Or you have any questions up to now? Very slight things I did. You can chat. I'm looking at the chat box and asking you. Right. Let's go. So normally when I ask you a question, I expect at least 50% of the class to answer me. Right? Not this kind of small questions, but when subject matter, when I ask, I will wait till at least 50% answer me. Right? So please be attentive because I can't see your faces. I don't know whether you are sleeping or not. Right. Commercial banks. What is our basic function? Yes, I started saying that we are money lenders. Yes, but bankers are financial intermediation people, right? What does that mean? That means we have to get money from the people and lend it to the other side, right? We are the bank. We are the bank. We have customers here and the customers here. Customer gives you money. You in turn gives to the borrowers. You collect your money and return to the customer. So you are in between. So our job is to mobilize deposit and lend money for the economy development. Right? Like our entire population is not banked. And there are a lot of money in your houses. You go and check. You have pills. You have under the bed money hidden. So by keeping money there, it is not good for the economy. So as a banker, our main job is to mobilize money, right? Our main job is to bring this money, which is not in the banking system, to the banking or economic system. So mobilization of deposit is our key job, because money keeping at houses, no use to the economy. Then once we get the money, we have to give that money out, lend that money to outsiders and earn some profit and return part of it to the deposit holders. We don't create money. We just basically sell money. We are doing a trading business. We get money from the depositors, sell it to the borrowers, get the money, return deposits, right? So in this process, we do some, we have a word called credit risk. Our entire subject revolves around this word. The layman idea about this is, will I get my money back as agreed? Credit risk is that. Will I get my money back as agreed? So when a depositor gives money to a bank, they run into the credit risk, right? They run into the credit risk. Will the bank return my money? You know what happened to Golden Key. You know what happened to Eddie Singer Brothers, the finance, right? You give money, after that, you will not get anything back. So when we lend, similarly, we face the credit risk. Will I get my money? You know that at the moment we have very high NPL, right? So we have very high non-performing loans or advance ratios in bank. That means we have given out money, money is not coming back to the bank. So one way we will face liquidity problem to pay the deposits. So these things are going hand in hand, right? Credit risk is, will I get my money back? It is applicable for the depositors when they give money to the bank. It is applicable to the bank when we give money to the borrowers. Right? So this is our main job, mobilization of deposits and lending. Deposit mobilization and lending, right? So when we do this, revenue, bank revenue, right? It comes from two ways, right? Our main income is interest income. Secondary income is fee income. Okay. So interest income we receive from deposits. Sir, it is deposits and loan. This is our core business. Our bank revenue comes from interest income and fee income. Interest income derives from our core business, which is deposits and loans. Fee income is generated from LCs, bank guarantees, facility fees, like that. Facility fees like that. And this fee income. Normally out of the revenue, 80% is interest income. Balance 20 is fee income. Right? So core business bring interest income to the bank. Then we go into different types of banks. We have two types of banks. First one is wholesale bank. The second one is retail bank. This differentiation comes from the orientation towards business or individuals. If a bank looks at lending for projects, lending for businesses, they are called wholesale banks, right? If main aim of a bank is to lend for individual needs like pawning, housing, personal loans, all personal needs, those kind of banks are called retail banks. But like in Sri Lanka, we don't have pure wholesale banks like development bank. Earlier we had NDB and DFCC. Unfortunately, we had to privatize both the banks. Now we don't have a development bank in this country. Under new budget proposal, they are talking about creating a new development bank in the country who will look at the businesses, pure business. At the moment, we have 26 banks, but all are looking at both business and retail. So there is no pure wholesale or pure retail bank in the country. So the mainly world wholesale banks are banks which overlooks the business side of the economy, and retail banks are looking at the retail prospect, that is the consumption purpose type, commercial purpose and consumption purpose. Twin goals of lending. Though we tell we have to be very careful and everything, we are not in the luxury, not like earlier days. We can't find only the cream and lend. We have to balance the risk and return. We call it risk-return trade-off. Whenever we deal with a customer, sometimes we may not get the perfect customer, but we will have to lend to some risky customers. When you are lending to a risky customer, your interest rate would be higher because it is risky. So you have to add a risk premium. When you are dealing, I'll give you an example. You lend to Haley's AWPLR or AWPLR 0.1 like that. You come, I will come to you as a normal human being and I will ask you for a loan. You will start with AWPLR plus 3. Why? Because Haley's is a big company and our perceived risk is low. So your margin would be very thin. But when I come as a person, you think it is very high risk, your margin would be higher. Right? So lending rate I will enjoy and Haley's will enjoy will be different. So you can't just find Haley's in the market. You will have to balance everyone because we have the objective of volume and quality. We can't just lend 1 or 2 people and wait. We have to have volume. Otherwise, our overhead cost will not be justified. So we have to have volume of loans. Same time, we have to have quality of loans, right? We can't have volume and bad quality, all bad quality. We can't have very small volume and very good high quality. It will not reflect our return object, the profitability object. Banks are not charity. We are doing lending to earn profits. We get deposit, we lend, get profit, return the money. Right? So in this process of loan and volume balancing, we have to look at few things: liquidity requirement, capital constraint, risk constraints, and return objective. Liquidity requirement is what? Have you heard about liquidity ratio? Any idea about liquidity ratio? We need to have 25% of our deposit book on near cash deposit. It is out of the deposit book, 20% we have to keep as cash or less than 3 months treasury bills, right? That means if 20% of our deposit holders come rushing to collect their deposit, we should be able to give them money, right? So when you give, right, so it is 20% of our deposit book that you have to remember, right? Then when you give out loans, if the loans are getting delayed payment, okay, I need to pay this month's rental before 30th. Normally I delay it by 1 day to 30 days or 40 days. That means money which should flow into the bank is getting delayed. So it is not a bad loan, but cash flows are delayed. So we can't tell depositors, wait, our money getting delayed, so we can't pay you, right? So loan recovery is the key for liquidity, right? So liquidity requirement, capital constraint, we will be discussing this in detail later on. So always, wait, I show you this. Right? Right. How does a bank get finance? If this is a bank, TMD, time deposits, CASA, right? Current and savings accounts, term loans, money market, and capital, right? So CASA, which is current and savings accounts, term deposit, which is FDs, layman terms, FDs, term loans, borrowing taken by the bank from other financial institutions. This is overnight money market, 1 day, 2 days, up to 7 day money market, right? And capital, this one is owners funds. What they say is, you need to have your owners funds if you want to lend, right? I'll give you an example. If you want to lend 100 rupees, if the capital requirement is 10, you need to have capital 10 rupees and 90 rupees you can borrow from any of these methods 90 rupees. But you need to have 10 rupees of your own funds. That means the regulator has caught us from the tail. If you have your owner's fund, you can lend. If you don't have, you can't lend. You heard about someone called Sakwiti, who is one of the famous English teachers who became a money lender? What they did, they collected cash, lended, but they didn't have their own funds. So when the bad loans comes in, this went straight to these people, right? Deposit holders, borrowers. Okay, so in order to face bad positions, you should have your own funds. That's what capital is. So you have to balance the capital requirement. Then risk constraints. Are we going to take all risk? Entire portfolio is credit cards, TODs. Or are we going to do with a little bit of risk, but little bit of good quality loans? Because can't have a high NPA, because we have to return our money. Return objective, profitability. So we have to balance all these things with this too, right? Credit culture, the fundamental principles that drive lending activity and how management analyze risk. The fundamental principles that drive lending activity and how management analyze risk. That is called credit culture, right? Is the culture, how we look at credit. Are we easily giving out money, or we are selectively? We have three different credit cultures: value driven, current profit driven, and market share driven. What is this? Value driven. Value driven means at the management level, we look at lending to best people in the market. So our objective, risk, return, trade-off. Risk high, return high. Risk low, return low. Right? So on value driven culture, we will be talking about this kind of scenario. Secured lending, perfect crib customers, corporate customers only. We don't touch the SME and micro. Like that, we are worried about our NPL, portfolio quality. We will have limited number of customers, very low, limited number of customers, low return, limited number, low risk, low return. Then the second one is current profit, profit driven. We will go into high risk, high return, TODs, 30%, 24 or 30%. Credit cards, 24%. Clean lending, 15%. Like that, our requirement is to have profits. Higher the risk, higher the return. So we tend to go into riskier products, riskier customer segments. Right? You will not see a green crib in that kind of culture. The weight given to crib will be lower. Right? Therefore, the main requirement in that culture is to increase the profit. So you will go from low risk to low return into high risk to high return scenario. Then the third one is market share. Market share driven. That means the bank wants to have everyone on their book. The market share has to be large. Right? Like housing market, I have 15% or I have 30%, like that. My aim is to grow the market. So it can be low lending rates, specialization into that, or similar things. So here aim is not to the high quality or high profits. It is the market share. Out of the entire market, how much I owe. Right? So that kind of a thing called market share. The fundamental principles that drive lending activity and how management analyze risk is called culture, credit culture. We have three types: value driven, current profit driven, and market share driven. Right? Then we will go to this one. You can't see the handout because there are three layers underneath. But if you go to the last page of the handout, you will get this, right? We call this five C's of credit. 5 or you can say 6 C's. Your syllabus says 6 C's, right? First one is character. Capital. Capacity. Condition. Collateral for 5 C's, right? Sixth C is cash flow, right? These are the 6 C's, right? When we go into lending, we look at this. This is our basics in lending. Character. That is the first and most important thing, but normally we ignore and suffer. Character is the same English word normally we use. Charitaya in Sinhalese. Right? So this character is twofold. Financial and normal day-to-day one. Both is important. Both are important. Financial character, how do you calculate that? How do you identify that? How do you evaluate that? The best critical factor on this is through crib. Okay. Crib is like our horoscope. I don't know whether you believe it or not, but if your horoscope is properly done and if it is given to a proper person, they will tell each and everything about you. Similarly, if you look at a crib, you can predict the behavior of a customer. We have green color ones, yellowish flowered ones, and strawberry-like ones. Right? So that means the behavior of paying, behavior of canvassing, behavior of cash flow management, everything shows on this script. But we tend to ignore it due to competition, knowledge, attitude towards lending, our credit culture. If you are in a profit-driven culture, you tend to ignore the crib. If you are in a value-driven culture, you give 100% to the crib. Good customer, bad crib. It can't be. Practically, customers may not pay every day, but once they come out of a business, you should reschedule and get it on regular track. So character is the most important in identifying a borrower. So it is not only the financial character, you need the regular day-to-day character as well. Why? That is their life. Yes, their life. But once bank gives out money to them, if they start playing around with our money, we have an issue. Therefore, you have to look at the normal character as well, because we don't want bad incidents happening and our money flows out of the business to some other requirements. So character is the most important. Then second one is the capital. That is the amount of money the owners has invested in the business. It is for two things. Capital. First one, commitment and repayment. We look at capital, how much the customer has invested in this business. It is to check the commitment. I have not invested anything, it is mainly bank funds. Then you have to be very, very careful. Right? When the money invested by a third party is high on the business, your repayment volume will be high. So any business does not go like this. It goes like this. You know what happened? What is happening at the moment? Yesterday, I want to buy a 2-kilo cake. It was not available in any place. Fab to 5-star hotels to not in any place. Now they do only 1 kg cakes. Right? So business is in this. So if your commitment was high, you are in trouble. So you need to keep the commitment as low as possible. That's why we want capital. Right? We check something called gearing ratio. We will look at these things later on. Then we will go into capacity, ability to repay, how much cash they have. We work out something called DSCR, debt service cover ratio, or for short term interest cover, right? So how much can they repay? Today I can't repay anything, no money, but if you give me the loan, I will pay even 100,000. That kind of dream financing we can't. Today I can pay you 50,000 from my existing business. Loan commitment would be this. So with the loan, you will have a growth. So additional 10,000 should be possible. Right? So in order to find the capacity, we calculate these things. Then the fourth one is condition. Life is very funny. You are my 12th batch, right? Prior to 10th batch, I was taking example of saying prior to 2009, we hardly gave for tourism sector. From this date to 2019, we were lending heavily to tourism sector. We are today on 2020, again we are not lending to tourism sector. Right? During this period, we lend heavily to construction sector. 2016, 15. We lended heavily to construction sector. Now, we hardly lend to construction sector. Again, we may be considering construction sector. So, under condition, we look at the business environment, business condition, which industry they are in. These are not the covenants and conditions we put. This is the business environment the customer is in. Right? Then the fifth one is collateral. That is the security we get, because always there has to be a fallback situation. Then we look at cash flows, the ability of cash to flow in, because we need liquid cash in the business, then only they can pay. If they don't have cash in the business, They have sales, they have debtors, right? Sales, credit, cash, debtors, debt, collection. You can have very high sales, very small cash, very high debtors, very bad collection. Then it is good as bad, right? If you have very high debtors, very good collection, it is good as cash sales, right? So cash flows is very important and vital to run the business. So we have to look at the cash flows as well. And these are the 6 C's of credit. The last page gives you 5 C's. We will be discussing this further on another lecture. So you will have 6 C's. Okay. Any questions up to now? I have 35 people in the class today. Any question? Okay, let's go to the handout. Okay. These are the lending principles and best practices. We have 9 lending principles, right? Details given in your handout. I'll take you through these 9 principles. On lending. First and most importantly, it is safety of money. Why? As I showed you earlier, it is we borrow money. How? Fixed deposits, current accounts, savings accounts, term loans, money market, right? 90% of our deposits or our money is from outsiders. Then our job is to, that is the deposit mobilization, money mobilization. Our job is to lend money, give out money and take the money back, keep a margin and return the money with a profit, right? So in this process, if the money went out, does not come in, it stays there, we have an issue. We can't return our money, depositors' money. So safety is very, very critical. That's why we are very much bothered about NPL, non-performing advances. NPL, non-performing loans, NPA, non-performing advances, right? So it is very, very critical. You have to make sure you lend money and get it back. So always when you are going to lend, you should think, if I have money, my own money, will I give it to this customer? If you don't give your money, don't give the bank's money. Right? You need to take the money and give it back to the depositors. Right? That is the first foremost requirement. Second one is liquidity. Ability to liquidate the advance, the loan with speed. Right? That means, like, okay, I have a customer who pays on the dot. Then I have another customer who pays 30 days, 40 days late, but he pays. Then I have a customer who has not paid for 6 months and he will never come. That means he is NPL. Second customer is in delinquent state, but he will pay. You are very sure he will pay, but it gets delayed. I have only very few customers who pays on the dot. So delayed payment is bad, but it is not, I will not lose. So it is not going to affect the safety, but it is going to affect the liquidity. The ability to liquidate my loans, that means ability to recover, should be very high. When the customer right, delay the repayment, it is not credit risk, it is liquidity. We are not getting our money as planned. So we will have issues in settling our deposits. So it is liquidity. Second one is liquidity. Ability of liquidate the facilities fast. Then the third one, profitability. Banks are not charitable organizations. Right? We need to earn money, we need to pay profits, we need to pay salaries, we need to advertise, do everything and return some profits. Just give me. Oh! Right? We have to pay salaries, we have to maintain banks, and then we have to pay to the depositor. So it has to be profitable. Whatever the deal we do, it has to be profitable. So it is profitability. Fourth one is spread, the portfolio balance. That means when you are lending, you should not lend to just one sector. We call it concentration risk. These things we will learn later on. Right? See, what has happened to Hikkadua? What has happened to Nigambu? Like if the Nigambu branch has lent only to the tourism sector, now they are in a big issue. Hikkadua, fully tourism, big issue. So our lending has to be into larger number of sectors, larger number of people. If a branch has a portfolio of 500 million and out of that 500 million, 200 million is among 2-3 people, what will be the position of the manager? Right? You have to meet all their requirements, otherwise they will leave. Your portfolios will drop suddenly. So you should not lend just to few people or just to few sectors. You have to lend to all the sectors and larger number of granular loans. That is spread or balanced portfolio. Purpose. We should lend only to two things. First one is the commercial purpose. That means businesses, some money creating activities, economic activities. Or second one is the consumption purpose. Like commercial purpose, once use the money, you will get money again, recreation of money. But consumption purposes, you give the loan, end use of the loan will not create profits. Like housing loan, you will build a house, but it will not generate money. You buy a car, it will not generate money. Commercial purpose, you give it to a grocery shop, they will do business with that money and they will create money. Right? So, commercial purpose or consumption purpose, not for illegal purposes. You can't lend for arms. You can't lend for drugs. You can't lend for pornography. All those things are illegal. So, as a banker, we can't lend for those things. Right? Then the other one is end use of money. Like we intended to lend and we lend the money to build a warehouse. We have to make sure that money went into the construction of the warehouse. You lend 10 million, you have disbursed all 10 million, but warehouse has not been finished or no warehouse. You lend money to build buy a machine. You gave the money out, but the machine never came in. So we have to be very careful about the end use of the money. You have to monitor, you have to look at the end use, whether the money went into the same purpose. You gave for a vehicle purchase, money went to settle someone else's borrowings. So those things, end use, you have to be careful. Need-based financing. You have to look at the need. I started the lecture saying you are financial doctors. Giving larger amount or giving lower amount, both will kill the projects. So you have to evaluate the business, find out the need and fund that need. It can be volume of money, that's the amount, or it can be the product. When you want a 5-year loan, if you give 2 years, customer will be in trouble. Right? Like that, need-based financing. The first, before the last, it is the viability base instead of security base. When you lend money, you have to look at the profitability of the project and the credit worthiness of the customer, not the security. Like under the 5 C's of credit, security was the last C. Right? I'm getting a large land, so I'm lending. No. If you think you will have to liquidate the security or the collateral to recover, you should not lend. Then the last one, it is the owner's stake. What is the commitment of this customer? How much has he invested in the business? Right? If he has not invested much, then it is bank's funds. Why should I bother? Right? So these are the 9 principles or best practices of lending. So be thorough with it. I'm not going to repeat this particular part again. So it will be only here. Right? Safety, liquidity, profitability, balance, purpose and use, all these things are there. Right. Then we have basically types of lending. Right? Types of lending, we have two types. Asset based or cash flow base. This cash flow base is divided into two, that is known cash flows or projected cash flows. So this is the type of lending. I'll start with this one, asset-based lending. Right? Asset-based lending is where we look at the asset. That is the point where we make our first decision to lend. We look at the asset and think, okay, I will lend. Repayment ability, timing of repayment, all those things come secondary. Think about pawning, gold loans. There what we look at, the value of the gold, value of the article, right? Quality of the article. Then we decide the price and give money. Will you ask the customer, how much are you earning? Can you repay? When are you getting your salary? All those things immaterial. We look at the product. We look at the asset behind the lending. Similarly, look at leasing. I want a vehicle. I'll buy a Toyota. Forget about the LTV, loan to value, right? Forget about that, which is 70%, right? Just any vehicle I can lend any amount, right? I want to buy a car. I have two options. Kia, or like we say, a European vehicle or a Japanese vehicle. In normal practice, Japanese vehicle, Toyota, even 95% we will lend. But if it is a European vehicle, 60, 70, 50, like that. Why? Second-hand market of European vehicle, whether it is Benz or BMW, Audi, whatever, it is low. You raised 500,000 comes down overnight. But when it is a Toyota, second-hand value continues to be good phase. Right? So you look at the asset base. What is the asset behind? When you go for leasing, they will ask what is the vehicle you want. Then you start from this. But that is, you look at the asset. So it is very comfortable. We can find out the amount, right? But the problem is funds can be diverted. Lending appears less risky because if you don't pay, I'll sell the asset and collect. So based on the value of the property or value of the asset, only we decide the loan. So it is easy. Great risk of delinquency. Loan size, we decide on the asset, not the repayment ability. Then loan repayment schedule, not based on the customer's cash flows. Then the fluctuation of the asset value. What happened to gold? Today, we are giving how much? 65,000 or 75,000. It went down to 23,000 as well because gold prices crashed few years ago, not very long. So this is the disadvantage. Cash flow based lending, we have two types. First one is known cash flows. That means we look at the cash flow, not the security. We try to capture the cash flow, and based on the cash flow, we say, I'll come to you and say, I am a supplier to DSI, right? I have given an order, I delivered the order, but I am waiting for DSI to pay me. I will be getting 1 million rupees after 15 days. Can I get 500,000? DSI has agreed to remit money to your account, my account in your bank. I feel good to give that because I know the amount which will come. I know the date when it will come. Amount and when I know. So based on that, I can give. Oh, I come and say, I'm a distributor of water bottles and I have distributed and I have checks worth 1 million. I just need 300,000. So then again I know the amount. I know when these checks will be getting realized, right? So I know the cash flows. I can capture the cash flows by taking these checks into my hand. So lending seems good, right? So primary consideration is cash flow, not the asset or the security. Default due to funds diversion minimum. Loan size and terms repayment based on the borrower's cash flows. We know the cash will come this date and the amount best suited for short-term working capital funding. But disadvantages are it can be very small loan sizes. And this method is not good for capital assets. That means building construction, machinery purchase, vehicle purchase, we can't use this because their loan repayment has to be a monthly one. So this one is short term. Then so this is the example I just mentioned. Right? I'm a supplier to DSI. I go and give the DSI shoes. They give me a credit note or post-dated check. You can bring this one to the bank and get money. Similarly, I give out DSI distribution of water bottles, right? I give the goods, I get post-dated checks. So you can bring that to the bank and get money. So this is called cash flow based lending. Then the second type of cash flow based lending is projected cash flow based lending. That is called project financing. There, we don't know the cash flow, but we project the cash flow for future periods. Previously known cash flow. We know the amount of cash and we know when it will come, right? It has delivered. But under this project-based lending, we don't know exactly, but we project based on other factors. We take a solar power project, right? Take a solar power project. There we say, if the sun rises 8 hours and sunlight is for 8 hours, we can generate this much units. If you generate power, government will buy at 22 rupees. right? Therefore, government will buy at 22 rupees. Therefore, you will generate this much money. Based on that, our loan commitment can be met, right? So, second type is funding based on the projected cash flows. There also, we look at the projected cash flow. We are not bothered about the people who are behind the credit worth in balance sheet of the sponsors or the asset. That's the collateral. We are worried about the cash flows. Repayment is based on future cash flows. Startups eligible because we project and give the loans. Best suited for development project programs, that means solar power projects, roads, or anything. Disadvantages are highly prone to diversion of loan proceeds by borrower. We give out money, they can do anything. Require extensive analysis. As I just told, you just can't lend, you have to analyze how the sun will rise, how the water rainfall will happen, and all those things based on the project. Then there will be a lot of project risk, like climatic problems, then delay problems, all those things. This is the 5 C's of credit. I think I'm done. Yeah. And 5 C's of credit, I did. So up to now, so today lecture, we started saying what we are, and then the twin goals of lending, volume and quality, then different types of banks. Then we went on to say the 5 C's of credit, then the principles and type of lending, which is asset-based, cash flow-based types, right? So this is just a basic overview. So we will start from next week. Do you have any questions for me to answer before closing the day? But a little bit earlier, but that's fine for today. Do you have any question which I can answer or which was not clear during the? Can you, okay, sir, can you please explain the steps to be followed from origination up to recovery in credit policy? Yeah, right? It is like this. This is the time frame, right? Origination, evaluation, approval, right? Commitment, disbursement, recoveries, foreclosure, right? Then from this point, we have an umbrella which is called credit policy. It is the broader guideline which directs the bank's lending, right? It's the broader guideline. So under the credit policy, you can have product policies, which is SME, project finance, warning, like that. We can have smaller guidelines. So this credit policy of a bank is decided by the director board and constructed and custodian our risk department. Right? It will direct the overall guidelines on lending, origination, evaluation, approval, delegations, recovery methods, how to go for foreclosure, and everything will give under this. Right? Each and everything is in detail given. So this is the credit relay. Then from here to here, it is called pre-approval monitoring, post-approval monitoring. From here to here, we have credit documentation. This is credit documentation. This is pre-monitoring, post-monitoring, and this part is handled by CAU, Credit Administration. From the time of approval towards the end, it is credit approval. This all monitoring part is credit approval process, credit administration process, right? Okay. Sitaran, is it clear? Offline in the sense physically? I think the institute is uploading this lecture. Pre-approval is origination to approval. Yes. Janardhani, right? Yes. Prior to approval, it is pre-approval monitoring. After that, post-approval monitoring. Anyone else? Ramalka, yes, we had the lending policy, national priority also, but which is not beyond our control. I have taken that out, right? Yes, post-approval is from approval to foreclosure. Foreclosure is forcefully closing the project, like legal action, litigation part, yes. What else? Any other question? Commitment is once the facility is approved, you have to do the documentation, offer letters, mortgage bonds, disbursement documents and everything, customer has to sign on our offer and acceptance. That is commitment. Disbursement is giving out money. Ask me questions. Don't be shy or don't think that you know everything. Or like, best thing is here, no one sees your face. Sometimes we tend not to ask questions because we are little reluctant. Sir, can you please explain value-driven method? Okay, value-driven method. Jana, okay, Oshan, just give me 1 minute. Janadani, the is commitment of the customer document. Okay, first I'll answer Janadani. These are controlled by which department? Janadani, commitment and disbursement has to happen from credit administration. The business line should not get involved in system related thing. That's the centralized mechanism. So it is credit administration. Nipunika, what is it? Is commitment the customer documentation part? Yes, commitment is like customer signs the offer letters and agree with our terms and conditions. Then we load the system to the system. So that is commitment. Nipunika, did I answer your question? Right. What I was saying is EWS, early warning signals. We have a separate lecture on that. That is a color light. Right? So when you are in the color light, you have red, amber, and green. EWS comes under post-approval. Yes, post-approval monitoring. So before any customer goes bad, they will indicate that they are going bad. That's the amber light. You are on the green, suddenly amber comes in. That means be slow, be watchful. That then goes to the red. Similarly, EWS is also the same. Nipunika, did I answer you? Right. Anything else? If not, this is the end for today. We'll meet next week. Okay. Thank you.